Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court and CPS issues. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. And since 2016, Monica Shimonik has been coaching moms and dads as they navigate through the treacherous waters of the family court racket. Aside from workshops, which helps with specific problems, her 12-week signature course, The Best Interest of the Parent, uses a 4-quadrant model to create a robust healing and empowerment system so that you control the narrative in your life, not the state. Use coupon code Slam the Gavel to get 10% off the course. And the website is included in the podcast notes. Right now, I've got another guest who's back on. Her name is Danica Joan. Last time she was on Slam the Gavel was on April 27th of this year, 2021. And she has dedicated her life to advocating for families going through a contentious divorce. Her work continues to evolve, and she's created a network of experts who expand her ability to support you as you enter new, often fraught territory. And she's developed expertise in 3 primary practice areas. And we're going to talk about hopeforfamilies.net, and we've got a lot to talk about. So I welcome you, Danica. How are you doing?
Hi, wonderful. Thank you for having me on again.
Oh, glad to have you back on.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on. It's not been a time of relaxation during this whole time of COVID. And it's actually been an amazing opportunity to create what's next for families. It's been, and what's next is our team at Kids Need Both has been working diligently with some tech guys to create a community, a platform community for families. And we've actually given it its own domain, and it's called hopeforfamilies.net. And the reason for doing that is our mission is to collaborate with all the experts and actually cause their effectiveness, because we could touch one family at a time, or we could touch one professional at a time. And if we can support the effectiveness of these professionals and make their jobs more effective, we touch more families.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And people need to support each other. And, and that will give the support that everyone needs.
Oh yeah, it's been something that I think for over 20 years. I've been in this work since 2001, and it's, I think from the very get-go, I was all about collaborating and curating information that desperate families need, because at that time I was that desperate parent who was just begging for information, and so I tried to pull it together and put it on a website. My first version of that was basically kind of an information dump onto a website. Mm-hmm. And now I'm looking at how the different social media platforms are going and what works and what doesn't work. And that's when I thought, we can work smarter if we come together in unity to serve the families. And in that, so we can talk about what works and what doesn't work. Currently in a lot of the social media groups that that I kind of peruse and stuff like that, are very much, the people are very disempowered. Mm-hmm. They're looking for some, for someone to say that it's going to be okay. And they're just so wounded that sometimes the groups become sort of this place of sewage, just to swirl around in the same old, and that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It's so important to get these people out of these groups where they're just dumping their emotions, and get them with like a trained person, a trained expert, like a coach in a safe space, like a coaching group. The other thing that I saw was courses. A lot of our professionals have shifted from in-person to being able to do it online. I think everybody, it was a steep learning curve for all of us who had no experience with online communication. So that's where we're supporting them as well in helping to, in this platform that we're creating. It's connected to Zoom. It's something where you can have live groups. You can also have those discussion boards and stuff like that. But also, we've added the component of having a learning management system. And one of the reasons, my background is in instructional technology and education. So I see a huge value in providing these, courses and things like that, to not only courses that are the end user is the family, but courses that are for the professional development of this professional community that's on the platform. And in that, we also have added a directory. So we're curating, we're scouring the whole universe, anywhere where we can find an event that is of like mission and vision is what we're up to. We're taking those events and we're putting it on our calendar of events, and we're pushing other people's events out into the other social media outlets. So there's just like more people helping them to get the word out. And I guess the last one is we're developing a directory of professionals for the parent user that can subscribe and tap into just the right people that they need to find. And it's also rated. So the reason for the rating is because how many times have you asked for an attorney and somebody recommended it because that person won them their case, and then you get in there and they've cost you tens of thousands of dollars and they haven't helped you at all. So it's super important to make sure that all of our professionals are here to help families, not monetize families,
Right. Because a lot of these families have just blown so much money on attorneys to the point that now they're practically broke trying to fight their battle to get their kids back.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking. And you would think that, that somebody would have a conscience on the court level or whatever, but they don't have an answer. That's really what it is. They are so busy dealing, you've got an attorney, their background typically is not mental health counseling. So they don't know what to do with this, this client that's just a hot mess. So it gets to the point where they're just like, they just take the money and they do what they need to do. And they're not, the parent, and I've always said this, is before you hire an attorney, you really need to hire yourself a coach, whether you call it a custody coach, a divorce coach, or whatever. You need to get yourself plugged in with a coach that can be your shining light to guide you through this emotional roller coaster. And they will tell you if they feel that it's a point where you need to get an attorney, but they will also, attorneys are a tough thing, because the moment that you hire an attorney, you are declaring war in many respects.
Definitely. Yeah, because the other side becomes defensive and then they hire an attorney. And it would just be great if people could just mediate and be mature enough to do that. But sometimes this is not the case.
Hey, something in the state of Florida, an attorney cannot represent both sides.
Hmm.
Like if a party, they say, hey, we would like to do this as amicable as possible, but we still want that legal representation to help us to make sure we're laying the groundwork. I mean, you're laying the groundwork for 20 years of co-parenting.
Mhm.
So you want to know that it's done right, but you can't, if you bring in an attorney, they have to represent one parent against the other parent, which
Mhm.
automatically puts the other unrepresented parent in survival mode. And and it's really sad. I do know that you can do mediation centered divorce or custody and stuff, and mediators come in different flavors. So there's educator mediators like I am. There's mental health counselor mediators, and then there's attorney mediators. So you do have access to something that's not so adversarial, but education is the key to to going through this with
Mhm.
power and without reacting and escalating things unintentionally.
Mhm. Mhm. And the thing is that the sad thing is that things can escalate very quickly.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're talking about um, a lot of times we get into a relationship and we're like, oh my gosh, I met the love of my life. Well,
Mm.
until you give birth to the love of your life,
Mhm.
truly, your children are like these that can do no wrong, and you love them, and they cause you so much pain, but you
Mhm.
love them anyway. And you can't really say that necessarily with another adult that causes you pain.
Mhm. Mhm. It's just some parents are just, they've never heard of a divorce coach or, even mediation, or they've tried that and that hasn't worked. But it is a good idea to have a coach get you through this and prepare you for what could happen next.
For sure. And I will tell you, I have several situations where I have saved people, you know, $20,000 or more. There was a couple that came to me in the midst of the pandemic. Everything just went, sideways with them, and they were completely, divorced, and everything was settled. But life creates triggers. So they fought in court for a while until one party, their attorney says, before we move forward, I need 20 grand. And
Mm.
this is a situation that was already, divorced and a done deal, but things weren't working. So this person came to me and they said, I'd really like for us to go through a mediation.
Mhm.
So I had several sessions with them, and I was mediating slash coaching and
Mhm.
working, trying to get these co-parents on the same page and come up with some agreement. And oh my goodness, they saved a fortune.
Mhm.
Not to, I mean, and that's just the monetary example of the emotional damage that it could have caused, with the
Right.
children and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh,
And I don't think parents realize that when they do get divorced, the damage that is going to happen in through the family court system with the kids. They don't realize this is I'm sorry, my voice is going, but, that this is going to happen.
yeah, you don't know. I mean, you don't have any experience, and even if you have someone in your life who's experienced divorce or your parents divorced or whatever, it is a whole minefield that I mean, and for one thing, you're not thinking because when you get into that emotional survival state, you're thinking with your primitive brain instead of the logical parts of your brain. And so even biologically, it's not smart to take an emotional situation and go it alone.
No, and you can't go it alone when you're going into that courtroom where there's no cameras, there's no jury, there's no backup. And sometimes parents can't get a lot of people to go with them.
That is so true. I was very fortunate that when I was, and a lot of times when you are at that broken point of ending a marriage, which, you know, you thought it would never happen to you, but it did. But when you get to the point where I'm, this marriage is not working, and knowing that there's more than just heartache with your spouse, there's, you know, that these children are really the victims of something that they have no control over. And it really is scary. I was very fortunate to have my sister be there every single court hearing, and even and many of them got postponed and diverted, and it was just all these tactics and stuff like that. But she was there by my side no matter what, and that made a big difference. And I'll tell you, that is not something that everybody has available to them. And which is another reason why to get yourself plugged into a coach situation.
Right, because these courts, they, you know, the opposing counsel is always pulling a continuance. You know, a continuance. It can go on for months. So it's like, hurry up and wait. Oh, now we have to wait. And it's good to have a coach, you know, guide you through that, even that stress.
Yeah, you know, attorneys are designed, they're wired strategically. They are strategic in there. So when they look and they see, oh, well, you know, this hearing is not going to go in our favor. So what chess piece can I move so that it won't hurt my client, that we have a chance of winning? So they completely are not even thinking about standing up and representing the child, because they're not paid to represent the child. They're paid to represent their client, even if they don't like their client, even if they don't believe their client's doing the right thing. A good attorney will also put their client with a coach, so that, first of all, their client is not blowing their phone up with all of these emotional, reactionary, fearful calls. They actually have a calmer client that you know will like them in the end, you know, because they'll appreciate the fact that they cared enough, that attorney cared enough about the well-being of that parent after everything's said and done, to put them with a coach.
Now, when did you start this hopeforfamilies.net? How long did that take?
It was last year, April, we had our conference. It was in 2020. We did our conference in April, that shifted from in-person in Lakeland, Florida, to an online conference, and it exploded. I mean, it just really expanded from I think 9 speakers to 18 speakers, and we were able to reach, I think it was 12 countries that plugged into our conference, our online conference. So that was what really had us say, wow, this is amazing. Like, now this conference is, because it's online and it's recorded, we have it, you know, its life goes beyond the weekend that it happened. So we thought, how can we help people ongoingly to and bring everybody together? And it took about 6 months of weekly meetings with my team to just bounce ideas off, and what works, what didn't work, what's missing, where the gaps are in family advocacy and stuff. And then it just it started taking shape. You know, it was like this ball of clay that started slowly realizing what we wanted to create it to be, and stuff. And it was just it's just brilliant that we get to offer this to not only the families, the parents, but we get to offer this to be of support to the professionals too, because everybody's doing, they've got their own thing, they've got their own shingle out, and they're doing great work, but we're all kind of doing it on our own, trying to make a difference. And I was just like, we need to have some sort of an alliance or some sort of a network that we can come together and help each other to be better. And there's no reason why some of these people that I know, they don't even make money at doing this as a profession. They are supplementing it with another job so that they can still be a voice to these families. And I'm like, there's got to be a happy balance where parents can pay but not go broke in finding the right people to help them navigate this. So the concept is bringing in all of these. I've actually put a call out to find 20 leaders in family advocacy globally who want to help us to be content creators for this platform. That means we'll help them with writing their courses. We will help them with start having their live groups. Anything that any place where we can. This can be a certain. This can help them to further their mission. We want to be there alongside to kind of walk them through it, because not everybody is like really high tech and stuff like that, and some of the professionals need coaching on that side. The reason that we decided to create a whole new domain called hopeforfamilies.net was because we did not want it to be Kids Need Both and our programs. We did not want people to lose their own identity in what they're creating by coming up under Kids Need Both organization. So this whole platform is really a consortium of professionals coming together to have services for families.
And I like how you said this is a global problem.
It really is. We had, I think, Father's Day. We've also been doing monthly panels. It just so happened that in June we did 2 panels, or 2 different weekends. We had panel discussions, but normally we do a panel once a month, and it's an hour long, and we bring a few experts on. And in June, on Father's Day, we had representation from Canada, the UK, and the United States. I know there was at least 3 countries represented for that particular panel. And that's part of what we're doing as far as bringing in professionals that we invite to come on to live panel discussions. And then, of course, with those panels, we're able to provide that content to families and stuff like that as well. So in a way, we're doing sort of a 1-hour conference once a month.
That's good. Will this eventually branch off, I don't know, to young adults that have been through the court system that you could help?
I think the way that, because it's a collaboration project of different agencies and professionals and stuff like that, the key to being part of the platform is having a similar mission and vision, and that would include working with young people. I know one of our board members, Dawn McCarty, she was a child who was abducted by her parent, and she wasn't able to reconnect with her father until she was 44 years old, I believe, and or maybe it was 44 years later, but anyways, about that time, she finally reconnected with her father and kind of got a lot of the missing pieces to her life story together. So now what she does is she's of service to families through, I think, Safe at Home is what her program is called, and it's about cybersecurity. It's about, because that was, I mean, she was abducted. This is something that is, it's kind of a hotbed thing in the community with mostly in the lines of the prostitution rings and all that, but in the family part, there's about, I think, 4% of every child of divorce has been subjected to some sort of parental abduction.
Mm-hmm.
Point being is, when we come out of the dysfunctional, hopefully we can actually reduce the amount of children who are traumatized by divorce and battles, but there's going to be a percentage who grow up and that's their childhood, and we have to be there for those young adults to find healing.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, how will they come to you? Some of them don't even know what happened, or they just brush it under the carpet and go on with their lives. Hopefully they seek you out.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just getting the word out. I know we also generate lots of different social media posts, whether it's blogs or memes or videos and stuff like that, that we kind of look at our community and see where everything is, kind of get the temperature of the community, and we create our own unique blogs as well as sharing other people's.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunately in those situations, it is through awareness. It is through, remember thinking about all those posters or those billboard campaigns that try to to reduce people from or for people who were addicted to cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they don't get it, or people who have who are trying to get off of drugs and alcohol. A lot of it is just getting the word out and having a conversation that just keep the conversations going, and they'll find their way to us.
It's, I'm sure it's hard for them to process everything. And like, as far as media platforms, have you thought of TikTok?
We've been looking at, we're trying to get to all of the different social media platforms that we can, and yet we are a small team. So I'm sure that that's a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. Another one is, I know that we have several people in our advocacy groups that we would be supporting that have programs for schools. That would be huge, because as much as it's important to get legislative change happen, it's important to get the courts to get the importance of preserving the family ties. That's a top-down approach, and things don't really move very fast if you go top-down, because if you make legislative changes, fine, you made a law that says we in the state of Florida are pro equal shared parenting. That's wonderful. But if you don't have a buy-in from the judges, and you've got judges that their old way of thinking was, when the marriage didn't work out, the mom takes care of the kids and the dad becomes the breadwinner. They can easily take their personal views and say, you know what, I know legislative says this, but I have the right to override legislation and say, for the best interest of the child, they need to be in one home. So really, to make true change, and this is something I've sort of discovered, I've been in the discovery of, is grassroots. You've got to have grassroots conversations. You've got to have conversations with your neighbors. You need to, get into your service organizations like Kiwanis clubs or the Lions Club and different places, and have conversations with people that you know and that know you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what's going to shift things. And I know we're partnered with the United Way of Central Florida. So that's also a great way to connect with, nonprofits to other nonprofits,
Mm-hmm.
without going straight to the family level. That's important too. But it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Mm-hmm. And that's a lot to do.
It is.
Do you have any help? In someone helping you, or you have a staff helping you?
I do. I have a very small staff, and I I find that the busier I am, like the less I'm able to sleep, because my mind is going like crazy. In the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do this and I got to do that. But I have a great technology team that's been working on the platforms, and we also have I have an assistant that's been amazing at supporting us as far as generating social media and helping people with their course creation and stuff like that. And then it's really made up of a bunch of advocates that are just, I'm all in. I want to do whatever it takes to get the word out, because this is horrible for families. The family is the core of society. If you can't restore society without starting with the families.
Yeah, that's so true. And like Dr. Mark Roseman said, these court systems are destroying families for like 6 generations to come down.
Oh, one thing that I know is that, we program. If you think about a little human being comes into the world like a brand new iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
It comes off the factory. It's got some basic programming in it, some basic things, but it's not been customized. And as a child gets older, their programming is developing. And the thing is the programmer, which are the moms and the dads,
Mm-hmm.
the programmer is programming them based upon the fallibility of how they were programmed.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were programmed with just a mom or just a dad, and there is this like unspoken belief that the child just needs one parent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it starts building, the programming builds generation after generation, and it can be interrupted. Like, you can come from bad programming. And once you recognize what was unhealthy, what worked and what didn't work, and heal yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you can create, your children to have healthy programming, so to speak, and help them along. But, you got to help yourself. You got to put that oxygen mask on first before you put it on your child, kind of thing.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons I'm really, I encourage. I became a mom very young. I was 21 when I started having my children. And I get that in your 20s, you're trying to learn how to be an adult. You're based upon your childhood programming. And then in the process, you're, being a parent too. Yeah, like, there's a lot of things, a lot of ways that I am different in working with my grandchildren than and things I wish I could have had a do-over with my own children. So, and which is why I encourage my children, please wait to have your families, and just a little bit later. But I also get that the key is not necessarily the age.
Mhm.
It's at the level of healing that you are that needs to happen first.
Right, and that's where the coach comes in also and helps with the healing.
Yes, and that's where, schools, if we had schools that were had a specific class for healthy communication, that would make a huge difference, because a lot of this is all based in the ability to be, healthy communication. And you're not really taught that. I don't know, can you think of a class that's offered, in the K through 12 level that strictly teaches communication?
No, I mean, all we had was how to handle a checkbook. I remember that class. That was it.
Yes, and that's irrelevant now.
Right.
um, yeah, communication is, and this is something that I work with my clients, whether I'm coaching them or I'm mediating them, is to get them to see what it's like on the other side, on the other person's perspective. And it's just so easy to, in relationships, especially, whenever marriage has gone sour, it's so easy to almost, I say, objectify the other person, like they're an object, like they are either an obstacle or something that doesn't work anymore, doesn't work for me, and they don't work for my kids, because I know your deepest, darkest secrets, and we had a collusive bond where we kept each other's secrets together, but no longer is that acceptable. And so yeah, communication, teaching both of the parents that the other side is human and fallible, and it's important to see, to have communication and to let go of a lot of things in order to be whole and complete. But a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable, because vulnerability was what got them into an unhealthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. And then they're worried it will be used against them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and sometimes it is. So, and that's where, if you had a coach who was doing the thinking for you and helping you to get grounded and stuff, they could tell you, you know what, don't those items, and I know they worry you and you're afraid that they're going to use it as a weapon. A coach could tell you, forget about that. Forget. How many times do we, in reaction to what we think somebody else is going to do, we make a move?
Mm-hmm.
Not because they've done anything, but we're making a strategic move in reaction to what they might do. And,
Right.
and then we mess it all up. It's like inviting, having a family dinner and everybody's bringing potluck and stuff. Oh my goodness, I had one time, I had a friend of mine, she was wonderful, and she would say, okay, everybody, bring a covered dish, your favorite dish, but then in her mind, because she wasn't sure what everybody was going to bring, she was like, well, I'm going to buy everything just in case we get too many macaroni salads and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so now we have enough food to feed an army. And you can see how, and even in that silly example, how everything can really go askew by living in reaction to what might happen. I call it the what if world.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think people, they jump to conclusions, and if they could just co-parent calmly, that would be great for everyone. And I have seen it done. I have a friend, I have two friends that they're in co-parenting relationships all the way up to their kids graduated. high school, and everyone is just very amicable. It can be
Yes.
done, but then there's those, I don't know how many percentage that it just doesn't work that way with them.
Yeah, I would say, you know, those who react badly and
Mhm.
they resort to parental alienation and stuff like that, a lot of times they've completely blindsided the other parent. The other parent did not expect that when they asked for a divorce, that the one perpetrating parental alienation was going to react so like in such a obsessed way,
Mhm.
like win at all cost, even if the children are destroyed, as long as I win. When you think about it, and this was something I had to really ponder over the last few months, is what was their little child like that was, what happened when they were a little child that would have them resort to that?
Mhm.
I mean, and more than likely, I know in some situations, in my situation, um, there was I'm so afraid you're going to kidnap my children from me that I am going to preemptively
Mhm.
kidnap them from you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's that example of living in the what if, and now the children are traumatized.
Mhm.
Um, it was I during COVID, I actually my kids they lost their father.
Mm.
Um, and it was an interesting thing for me to sort out emotionally because I really we went through a horrible custody battle that lasted for solidly over 5 years,
Mm.
and but I was a stand for I'd always been a stand for the kids to have a loving relationship with both of us, and that both of us participate in equal shared parenting. And but I think he was, when I look back now, because he passed away in March,
Mhm.
and I think about there were some bittersweet moments
Mhm.
because uh, you know people who didn't know him
Mhm.
were like they were almost elevating him to sainthood. And my kids and I, we were like, I know they were thinking this, and I was silently thinking this. I'm like, okay, those people don't know him, like
Mhm.
know him completely, and it's not my place to set the record straight and say, oh, you just don't know who he really is or was. Um, but actually, I had this really weird like compassion because I know my kids were hurting so bad. They wanted to have, they loved their father. And as much as they knew all the warts, they knew all the ways that he was flawed, they loved him anyway. So
Mhm.
my heart hurt because my kids were hurting.
Mhm.
And so that's what drove me to be able to help my kids sort out his affairs, help my kids with taking the burden off of writing the obituary, taking the burden off of planning the funeral and stuff. And, there were definitely some triggers of, you know, how, you know, and I think that's what people do anyway. When somebody dies, suddenly, for a moment, that person could do no wrong.
Mhm.
Um, but I also had the experience of compassion for him as the human that he was, the little boy that was so traumatized that he resorted to traumatizing.
Mhm.
Um, so I know it can be done. I know if I can make something workable, and yeah, my kids are now adults and they're healing. They're still healing, but I
Mhm.
think that's what you do in your 20s anyway.
Right.
Uh, the it's important for the advocates to come together and be this united force. I mean, we can be a force of nature to transform families.
Definitely. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would say, if there was anything I would say to this platform, this community, where some of us are calling it a movement,
Mhm.
is for families. We haven't completely gotten past some of the beta parts of it. Right now, we're creating content. We're bringing together, in fact, we're soliciting for 20 professionals and advocates who want to partner with us to generate content for, I say for the platform, but it's really for themselves too, because if they're writing a course that's a course they want to charge for, they can do that. And the whole platform is designed to offer any service that you can offer anyplace else. We've tried to figure out how we can offer it cheaper and better for the profession, to cause the effective leadership of the professionals, and to be of service to the family users as well.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm so glad I had you on. I'll probably have you back on again,
Awesome.
with updates, Okay. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again with Danica and other guests that will be coming on. Thank you so much, Danica.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.